Welcome, everyone. We're going to read our first reading from Mass on Sunday, and then I'll offer a brief explanation of it. A reading from the book of Leviticus. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "If someone has on his skin a scab or pustule or blotch, which appears to be the sore of leprosy, he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to one of the priests among his descendants. If the man is leprous and unclean, the priest shall declare him unclean by reason of the sore on his head. The one who bears the sore of leprosy shall keep his garments rent and his head bare, and he shall muffle his beard. He shall cry out, 'Unclean, unclean.' As long as the sore is on his head, he shall declare himself unclean, since he is in fact unclean. He shall dwell apart, making his abode outside the camp." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. The book of Leviticus is one of the first of the 5 books in the Old Testament. And those 5 books are called the Pentateuch. So penta means 5, like the Pentagon. It's 5-sided. And tuch is just the word for Torah. So scroll. So it's the 5 scrolls, or the 5 books that were supposedly written by Moses. Well, the book of Leviticus has all types of instructions about different situations that might arise among the Jewish people. And one of them has to do with how do you treat a person who's sick? In this case, a person who has leprosy. Now, the first reading begins by saying, "The Lord says to Moses and Aaron." This certainly seems like a cruel way to treat a person suffering from leprosy. So we have to decide, did God really tell Moses and Aaron and the Jewish people to treat lepers this way? Or is this the way the Jewish nation ended up treating lepers and then kind of put these words into God's mouth? That's probably how we got this instruction. And this was common enough. So let's take a look at it. So this is God saying, if a person has leprosy, they shall be brought to the priest Aaron or one of his descendants. And if he's leprous and unclean, the priest should declare him unclean. Okay. This word unclean is going to constantly be repeated throughout this first reading. So now, the one who bears the sore of leprosy, this is God speaking, shall keep his garments rent. That means he should rip his garments to let people know that he has leprosy. He shall also not cover his head. In the desert, people covered their heads, to stay cool and protect themselves from the sun. Well, not this man. He has to keep his head bare. What else? He has to muffle his beard. So he has to wrap his beard to let people know that he has leprosy. And not only that, he's supposed to cry out, "Unclean, unclean," if there's people nearby. Nearby means like 50 yards away. Okay. And as long as he is unclean, he is in fact unclean, and he should be isolated. He should dwell apart from everybody else, and his abode where he lives should be outside the camp where the Jewish people live. It certainly seems a cruel way to treat people who are sick. But you can also understand it when 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, when the book of Leviticus began to be written, that was the way they dealt with a contagious disease. So, in the gospel today, there's a leper. And in the gospel today, Jesus says that he's clean, and he repeats it, that he's clean. And, it's kind of a reversal of what happens in our first reading today. I think a lot of us can relate to this reading because all of us are dealing with a very contagious disease called COVID-19. In some ways, it's kind of a modern leprosy. And it's a contagious disease. And we have to practice social distancing, 6 feet distance. We're supposed to be washing our hands and sanitizing our hands. We're supposed to be wearing masks. And that has really affected our psyche. I was in the hospital this past summer twice. And the one time I was in the hospital for 6 days. And I went into the hospital and I saw no one. No one was allowed in. I had a cousin in the hospital for 2 months, and she was not allowed to see anybody. And we all know people who have caught the disease, and they had to quarantine for 10 days or 14 days. And it's just hard. We long for human contact. And it must have been very, very hard for people back then to be isolated. Sometimes they recovered, usually they didn't. So maybe our reading today can give us some perspective to look at the COVID-19 pandemic and the way we deal with it. But also, it should make us sympathetic to those people who are isolated and alone. Some people are alone, not because of COVID-19, but just because they're isolated. So if you can, reach out to those people. Be a companion to them and a friend. Ask them how they're doing. And when we're able to visit people again, if you know people who are sick and alone and isolated, then make a strong effort to reach them and to visit them in person. Just a reminder that for the Lenten season, we're going to begin a program called Connections. It's going to be on the Tuesdays of Lent here in Upper McShane. It's going to go from 7 to about 8:30, and we're going to start on the Tuesday after Ash Wednesday. If you'd like to learn more about the program, go to our YouTube channel and find the video called What is Connections? It's about 15 minutes long. It explains the program. And also, if you're interested, come Tuesday night of this week here in Upper McShane and learn about the program. We'll be here for about an hour to explain it, and you can get a book if you want to be part of the program. This program is open to everybody, not just to people who have made retreats here at Malvern. It's open to men, women, couples, people who have never been here at Malvern. And if you've been here at Malvern and you'd like to make this 6-week program, it's not very long, invite somebody with you. Okay, thanks everyone, and God bless.